Israel, the only democracy in the Middle East. Jerusalem, the most hotly contested real estate in the world. Judea and Samaria, condemned by the world as the West Bank. You will not see it in the media. Journalists try to hide it. Real stories about real people, fathers, mothers, children, families. These are the people of the heartland of Israel. Your journey with him continues with the Joshua and Caleb Report. Stories from the heartland of Israel.
Ms. Danielle Wise, I am absolutely honored to be privileged to interview you here in Kedumim. This community, I would say, Josh, would you agree with me, is one of the most beautiful communities in all of Judea and Samaria as far as the beautiful flowers and the trees. And from the research that I've done, I found out your fingerprints were on a lot of those since you served as the mayor in 1996 and was reelected in 2001. But the truth is, right now, from talking to you, the time that we have, you have some really amazing stories from the beginning days. And so let's go back to the very, very, very beginning, because truly you are a pioneer, and that's what we have. And so I want to hear from you the founding of the settlement or the reclaiming the land movement.
If I want to connect my pioneering days on this hill, and my meeting you now on this hill, facing Mount Ebal, Mount of Joshua with the 12 tribes standing here, and here we became a nation. Actually, the first time the Jewish people became a nation, really, is here, and we are standing in this. So if I want to connect this moment, and the first moments when I, considering myself a pioneer, wanting to be a pioneer, dreaming of being a pioneer, I want to connect these moments, my beginning here and my standing with you. Actually, well, I look at the sky and I think of the moment when we knew of the opening of the miraculous Six-Day War. I know you allow me to use the word miracle.
Oh, absolutely.
It was in 6 days, and I want to tell you, I was a child. I mean, not a little one. I mean, childlike when I compare it with today. But I was thinking as a child, and then before the war, I thought that maybe the small state of Israel might be, God forbid, annihilated because of the threats of our enemies from all around. And then in 6 days, there was such a victory. And I want you to know that at that point, I made a decision. I want to be a pioneer who will play with the present that God gave me.
Wow.
I wanted to be a pioneer, but my steps were slow. I confess, it was slow. But then, and I do feel like a person at the time, like a young person who God takes by hand and goes with me hand by hand and tells me, look here, I know, God says to me, that you appreciate the president that you got here, but you don't do enough. And it was the terrible shake of the Yom Kippur War, when we were taken by surprise on the holiest day of the year, when we were fasting, all dressed in white, and then I hear this siren, and I knew another war broke out. And then I took that decision. I made up my mind. I leave my home in Tel Aviv, and I go to these mountains.
Wow.
Physically. And the best proof that it was a pioneering act was that my husband said, no, you're not going to do it. We have our beautiful home in Tel Aviv. We had at that time our daughters, our jobs, our positions, our community. But I said, no, I take the back and put it on my back, and literally, physically, I leave my home and I go to the mountains, and I'm not going to return to Tel Aviv. I know, you look at me and you smile because you think it's a good story, but it's not a story, it's the story of my life.
Wow.
People
thought you were probably crazy at this point, right?
I see that you have some prophetic vision, because the next picture I want to draw before you was my friends from Tel Aviv standing around me in my living room in my beautiful villa in Tel Aviv, and standing and literally weeping. It's not a legend. It's a story, it's a chapter from the story of my life. Because they thought that their good friend, Daniela, was had a nice home, a nice position, a nice family, nice community to live with, going to the mountains. And I think that there cannot be a better picture to illustrate how desolate everything around was. There were small Arab villages who looked like stories from the biblical times. No roads, no infrastructure, no electricity, no running water. Yes, running water from the sky in the winter time. And there I go. So I said to my friends, look here, I believe in what I do, and I'm going to do it. So
you convinced your husband, right?
I didn't convince him, my husband, but I did the act. I actually took the children, and he followed. This is exactly the situation. I didn't leave any choice for him. So step by step, he accepted it. My husband was also very much involved in the Gush Emunim movement, which was the driving force behind all this settlement activity. At a later stage, I was a general secretary of the Gush Emunim movement. Later, at a later stage, I was the mayor here, as you mentioned, and I took care of many positions, but this is not the point. What I'm very much proud about is that I wanted to be a pioneer in the land of Israel, and I consider myself a pioneer in Eretz Israel.
Yeah, I'm just in awe of the beginning of the movement and how everyone came together, like you said, that you just painted such a beautiful picture of everybody coming together, and then even we talked about it, the faith of it. Like it's not a political movement of some sort, although that has its aspects. There's a lot of faith that went into you just dropping everything you had and moving your family to these hills. And I want to know where that faith came from. I want to know the reason behind why you did what you did.
You asked about the origins of this enthusiasm.
Yeah.
One could say maybe I am like people go to the Himalaya and go climbing some very high mountains in South America or in Tibet. It wasn't. I'm not looking for adventures, and I don't like picnics. Although most of my life since then is one big picnic. I like to sit at an elegant table, but I got this deep faith, when we say emunah, this religious deep understanding from my home, from the youth movement, Bnei Akiva, from the friends, from the synagogue, and at home. At my home, my parents, they came to the land of Israel as pioneers, and their parents came as pioneers, and we knew that to speak Hebrew, to see the mountains of Israel changing from a desert and from bare hills into a Garden of Eden is the word of God, it's the hand of God. And my parents always said to me, look, we are part of a miracle. We live the Bible. We live in biblical times. We always thought in terms of we are another chapter of the Bible.
Wow.
So I got this love of the land and this enthusiasm and this love of God that gave us the the opportunity to redeem the land. So what I do out of a will to thank God for what He gave us.
I want to hear stories from the beginning of this, of the people returning to the land, and you being like right in the middle of that. Obviously, even in the beginning, over here right beside Sharon. What a beautiful start. But I want to hear just how that got off the ground. You said it was kind of a slow start, but things eventually did grab hold, and I want to hear some of those.
It's a story that begins with I say hard feeling. Hard is, I felt something in my heart and something here. I wanted to climb on a new hill, not far from where we live here. We wanted to expand, because we didn't want to be limited just to a small ghetto and on one small mountain in Shomron. We wanted to live in the entire area, in the entire territory. So we took, I was already in charge of the community. It wasn't yet a regional council or a local council, but I was in charge of the community. So I hired a bulldozer. I sat on the bulldozer with the driver, and I said, there you go to that mountain over there, that is a hill. And I was debating with myself, but then I said to the bulldozer, go on, the driver, go on. We have to break this, the rocks here and to get to the hilltop. And then somehow it was, again, a rainy day, and somehow the bulldozer slid, and there were children behind, and it was a terrible, terrible situation. And I said to myself, oh, could I get some sign from God that I do the right thing? Because there's so many complications. Here the police came, and here the army came. And then all the little children, they got excited over the fact that there was so much agitation. Was I doing the right thing? Was I doing the right thing? Then, like a story from the Bible, really, there came a young man from one of the neighborhoods of Ktumim, saying to him with a book. It was from the Talmud, one of the holy books of our elders, Talmud. And he says to me, look here, you see, you know what date it is today? It's Yudalid Adar, the month of Adar, the middle of Adar, right? Look at the calendar. This is it. See you know what they do? It says here, they do on Adar. This is the time when they improve and take care of the roads, because of
Really?
after the time of the of the heavy rains, and then in order to enable people to go with the animals, with the carts, they have to improve. You see, you done it at that. I didn't know about it. I wasn't aware of the day and the date and the meaning. At that second, I felt everything melts in my body, and I said, okay, this is clearly a sign from God that I did the right thing. I was involved with the building of more than 150 communities, Even in the last few years, I was involved with some new outposts. Some of them were destroyed, 10 of them survived. I remember climbing the mountain of Bracha. All my stories are with rains. This is the connection between God and the ground and the human beings.
Absolutely.
There was rain, but there was hail, barad, bad, but like this. And I was holding one of my babies at the time, and I was climbing with many other people of Gush Emunim. We were climbing the mountain of Bracha over there, and there was a Peace Now a demonstration against the settlement of Bracha. So we were climbing the mountain together. The people who were for it and the people who were against it, because the hail united us. And then the community grew, and the interesting thing, I took my baby there, and then when she did like this, then the hair were on her face. So I said like, and then, believe me, it's now when I see the clouds here, all of a sudden it opened. We saw blue, and there was a pigeon exactly in the middle. And I'm not inventing stories, because my life is interesting enough. I don't have to invent, and I don't have to add to it, and I don't have to invent anything. It was all there, and now you know the community of Bracha.
Beautiful.
And I remember that when there was nothing, and what an effort we made in its hard times to take some families from here, to take some families from Ktumim, and to bring them there. We decided to go all over the country on power meetings and decide to bring people to the mountains of Bracha. And I went to Haifa, and I was driving. I came to this power meeting, and then I knock on the door after a 3-hour ride, and the lady says to me, what, today? I didn't know. But finally one family came to Bracha. So now you understand why I went there. So we can continue on and on. And if you want more stories, I will.
This is amazing. Pioneer, I can't think of a more descriptive word for all that you've done. Just the beginnings of these communities, and I mean, Bracha, Kidumim, these communities are beautiful, like flourishing communities. And for you to be at the beginning of that in those days and tell stories like you're telling of just the miracle, like you said earlier, it's a miracle.
I'll tell you something from yesterday. Yesterday, I was in En Gedi. En Gedi is a settlement near Yam HaMelech, near the Dead Sea. So there I met an old person, much older than me, and he said to me that he was one of the children of Yitzhak Tabenkin. What is the children of Yitzhak Tabenkin? He was one of 40 young people who, Yitzhak Tabenkin, one of the heads of the Labor Party of the first years of the State of Israel, and he educated them to be pioneers. And I met him yesterday. And sometimes I want you to know, with all the big stories that I tell, people think that I'm crazy, because I dedicate my life to the young generation. Even these days, with the new movement that we founded, Nahala, my #1 goal is to see that my own children, my own grandchildren, and the young generation, they continue what we did. Because what we did, it's not a job. It's not it's not a profession. It's not a business. It's a route for life that we have to see to it that generation after generation continues. So when this elderly person says to me that he is one of the 40 kids that Yitzhak Tabenkin, the big Yitzhak Tabenkin, dedicated his life to, in addition to other things. So I asked him, tell me, what did he do in order to become a pioneer? What did he do, this famous figure, in order to make you a pioneer? So he said, he spoke to us about pioneering. This is all it. So when I speak so much to the young ones, and I tell them stories of the past, sometimes I say, this is all, everything that I do. I also go with them on the mountains, but we speak a lot, and we discuss ideological matters. So yes, he spoke to them, and I speak to the young ones, and I try to continue to walk, to go in the footsteps of our forefathers. Okay?
Wow. Okay, one last question to wrap this up. Okay, one last question. In hearing you speak, there's nothing but the future in every word you say. Like, you have this ideal, even though the past may attach to it, but you live the past to know where you're going in the future. And so I want to know what your dreams are. What are your dreams? If you sit on your front porch or you got your grandbabies on your knees, what are you thinking when you look to the future and you say, this is what I want to see?
First of all, I have a very clear picture of the future. And it all goes by the verses of the Bible, very simple, very clear, that the land of Israel will be as it was promised to Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. And as Joshua was standing here, the Torah, the Word of God, the heart of the land of Israel, and all the nation, all of it together, here we became a nation in the heart of our homeland. This will become a reality, and all the conflicts that we see today are just a result of the fact that we are nearing this goal. And as we take this metaphor, when you want to use correctly a certain machine, then you use the manual. I opened this basic manual that we got from God, and He says, redeem the land, love the land, dedicate yourself to the land, be dedicated to it. This is what I do. This is what we do. So I see a clear picture of the results. And God said here to Joshua, if you do what is written here, then you will be on this land, and you will survive, and you will be successful, and you will thrive. This is the picture. This is what we dream about. This is what we do.